Transitions between shots and scenes can be one of the quickest ways to establish a style in your film and create a language of how you tell it. Film is a visual medium, so it's all about show, don't tell. And the best transitions are when you're able to show your story unfold without having to tell too much. There's this idea that transitions have to be the smooth swiping shots that blend everything together seamlessly. Now, while these transitions are creative and fun, and probably some of the most memorable in films made by people like Edgar Wright, they're not necessarily the most practical, and there are better ones to put on your toolkit that can actually tell the story faster. So in this video, I'm gonna be talking about several cuts that you can put into your film simply that are commonly seen within some of the biggest movies out there, starting with the Duffer Cut. Sounds more like uppercut. So commonly in the show Stranger Things, they do this style of cut. Let's break down this transition and see how we can use it. So the first part of this is an auditory slam cut, where we use a hard sound that breaks us into the next scene using some sort of tool, device, or movement within the next shot. And so this comes with a little bit of careful planning beforehand. So the first trick here is a tool, prop, or some sort of motion happening in frame to create this sound. So for example, it could be like the toy being dropped down. But the sound doesn't actually have to always come from the device that's seen on screen. For example, with these books being set down in the school shot, it's not actually the sound of the books going down, it's the sound of a locker closing. So even if the sound effects that you slam into relate to the space, you're able to get away with it to establish it. For example, if you want to cut to a school, maybe it's not the book slamming down, it could be the sound of a school bell ringing, obviously the door slamming, kids going down a hall, but using some sort of sound to slam you into the next scene jars the audience with the sound rather than a jarring cut.
What?
But if you're wanting to go from a time transition, so maybe it's an hour later, a location change, doing these slam cuts can get us from location to location or a different moment within the film easily by cutting to a hard sound. This can move the story forward because you're not only creating a transition, but you're also revealing a prop or detail that leads you into the next scene that establishes the space. So now that we know the first part of this trick, the second part is actually its own edit. It also blends with the Duffer Cut, and it's an auditory ramp up. Now, an auditory ramp is as simple as what it sounds. You use a swell or an auditory build to cut yourself out of one scene and kind of feather yourself into the other. Still having a visual hard cue cut on screen, but using a sound ramp up to fade yourself into where that transition is going to go. Now, Stranger Things uses this with their smash cuts, but they can be done on their own without any sort of hard cut that gets us out of the next scene. That hard cut audio could also just be silence or some simple movement. For example, in our film Clementine, we have these like shots of the home where there's this auditory swell, and then we just cut to a very quiet moment of Jackie falling onto the bed, just using motion as that transitionary point.
Continue game.
And sort of show you how to use this, I'm gonna navigate you through using it with music. So what we're gonna do is go on to our music platform of choice. I've been really digging Track Club, which is also the sponsor of this video. Their platform is one of the best user interfaces I've used for getting music on the internet. So what we're gonna do is skim through their scores. I'm gonna grab something that's sort of cinematic, that's cold, maybe dark, and ambient. I'm gonna snag this one. It kind of clicks with the scene that I'm building. Now, within this, I can actually go to this really great tool called Mix Lab. Once you have the song that you've chosen, you can now tweak and modify the song. It not only divides the song up into instrumental stems, it divides it into every instrumental stem and organizes the tracks. And you can fine tune it within the application. So rather than downloading every single stem, going into Edit and trying to finkle and finagle in Premiere's audio, you can just go into MixLab, change the volume of the different tracks that you want, find where you think you're gonna put that swell in, and then export that track. Let's say this stem doesn't feel like it hits the pace or tone of the movie I'm trying to go for, but I like what I've done with the mix. I can change the beats per minute, change it to be faster or slower depending on what my vibe is. So once you've downloaded your stems, I really like the song Race with No Limits. I've downloaded it in 3 different versions: the full song, the isolated stems with risers, and the isolated stems with bass. I personally find that bass stems are kind of my favorite when it comes to cinematic scores. So what we're gonna do is go into here and find the parts that we like. And here's the part with the riser. Now there's 2 ways you can do an auditory swell into your next scene. The first way is to actually just take an isolated riser and then put it into your clip. So I have this shot from our new web series Echoes where Jackie wakes up in the forest. Now we could just get her to wake up right then and there, or we could put a riser in to really make that emphasize on her wake up. So I'm just gonna click this in, grab the riser and slide it down here. So we need to know that when the riser ends is at the end of the clip. So when she pops on the screen, that's when we put the end of the riser. So we're just gonna slide this down here and pop it in. The only other area to where we could tinker with putting one of these swells or risers is right here, where we do a cut into this wide shot of the forest. Instead of using a riser track, I'm just going to use the song but put it in reverse by ending the song on the last hit. So you hear that hit. We're gonna set an in point at the final hit and our final out point at the ending of the track. Now there's this nice which will go into our favor in a couple seconds. Drag and drop your sound clip underneath the area to where you want to do the transition. So I have this drone shot and I have this shot of Jackie looking up in the forest. Now what I'm gonna do is click onto that audio track that we put in that has that and set the speed duration and throw it into reverse. Now it's gonna have this rise. And since that ending of the clip was this, I can actually just drag out the beginning and all it's gonna be is that subtle tone building us up into that hard hit. And now I'm just gonna slowly fade it in so it happens nicely. And then so that it doesn't become a hard jar or a loud bass click, I'm just gonna add a small transition by applying a default transition and just dragging it just 1 frame over the next clip so it fades nicely. Now if we play this clip out, it's gonna go from a hard cut to a nice swell, putting emphasis on that cut. If you guys like Track Club as much as I do, I've been using it consistently with this new web series that we're working on, Echoes, because I find that music, when you go onto platforms, it's not exactly what you're looking for. But with Track Club, you can customize it with all of the different options. I've got hair on this microphone. If you like what I've been talking about with Track Club, you guys can actually use it yourself. There is a free 1-month trial that you can get by clicking a link in the description below. So don't hesitate to take a look at that. You can start throwing it into all of your film projects and customize the music to be more specific to the film that you're making. That's it, friends and folks. Thank you so much for listening, watching, and learning. I hope you gained a little bit out of this. Transitions are an incredible, effective tool that you can use for your videos, but don't just hear it from me. Watch our latest short film, Clementine, in the description below to see all of these effects at play. I use it consistently, from the slam cuts to the risers to the Duffer Cut, which I love calling it that. And let me know what you guys are using these cuts for, because I genuinely love seeing the work that you make. And if you can tag me on Instagram or something, it would be super cool. Bye.